Howdy. Welcome to the program. Ha, program. Anyways, just had a few quick little evidences to bring up to you guys today. First, we'll be looking at one of the longest distance world record photography shots of a mountain at 273 miles away. And then wanted to talk a little bit about the moon and solar eclipses. So let's get into it. So we have here on Beyond Horizons, these guys are all about trying to get the farthest thing they can to show up on a photograph, which would be mountains, for instance. Here we have mountains backlit by a sunrise, not the sun itself. As seen, Jaron had a really good video of a mountain. I believe the observer was about 800 feet high, viewing a mountain over 160 miles, and we obviously know that there's way too much missing curvature there. So this one here is actually filmed at 443 kilometers. That is 273 miles of distance. Okay. So we've got a supposed 50,000 feet of curvature there in between these two. Let's see. It was actually filmed with a Panasonic Lumix, which isn't necessarily known as like a high-end camera. So anybody can go get a shot like this. They didn't use anything special whatsoever. I mean, a 1200 millimeter lens, that's not a lot of zoom whatsoever. So let's see. And these guys, so they say, thanks to exceptional weather conditions, the help of a polarizing filter was a huge satisfaction after previous attempts, sometimes collectively as well as individually. Well, where'd they go? So here it is. The other peaks of the Alps were also seen. Refractive, favorable circumstances allowed to view some other peaks. Okay, that's English. Even that more distant than the Barra de Ecrins, I know I'm not saying that right, is what has given us this time the brand new world record. So these guys are viewing things 200 plus miles away, and it's not coming up into their mind that if there's anything wrong with that they shouldn't be able to see that. And I was making the claim the other day that you could have a guy in New York, or you could have a telescope set up in New York looking over at London, and I bet you if you had 100 people view London through that telescope, just average, regular, everyday people, I bet you 98 of them wouldn't even think that they shouldn't be able to see London from that far. The other two would quickly come up with some excuse in their head. Actually, a good video, if you haven't seen it, is the one where the guy is filming a lunar eclipse in during the sunset. So the sun's fully out, and he's sitting there filming the lunar eclipse, trying to imagine why he's seeing what he's seeing. It's too hilarious. So I mean, yeah, guys, just come over here to the Beyond Horizons site. Come check it out. They have all of their altitudes, heights, all documented. This is, these guys are trying to take world record shots. They're not some flat earthers just taking pictures to try to see if they can see beyond the curve, So all of their measurements are fully documented. I do recommend you guys come check it out. Beyond Horizons. Let's see. So we have another one. Let's move on to the moon, right? The moon is is mysterious. I think we can all agree with that. Anybody that says it's a gray rock, um, man, just look at that thing. That the moon reflects a fluorescent white light. Okay, and if y'all saw the Apollo missions, you would see that they were on a dingy gray surface. In fact, their spacesuits were quite a bit whiter than the surrounding moon dust, supposedly. So what I'm venturing to say is that this moon's obviously pretty reflective, but we know it's gray rock for the most part. Then you have the Earth itself, right? The Earth is mostly water, and as we know, water casts quite a reflection. In fact, it can actually reflect like a mirror, um, like that. See what I mean? So what I'm saying is, when you're looking at a half moon in the sky at night, why aren't you seeing, or let's say you're looking at a new moon. Yeah, let's say you're looking at a new moon or a little fingernail moon, right? First day of a moon. Why is there no, uh, we call it like a earth shine, the reflection of the earth? Why is there no light being reflected onto the moon? When we know that this moon here, even a half moon, has the ability to cast enough light to where we can read down here on Earth. So that's just one thing to think about. Another is this, the fact that we have a half moon here, right? And what I like to point out to people, especially like friends or family that I'm not willing to mention flat Earth or conspiracies to, if I get the opportunity, I like to point out the half moon at sunset. And what I like to mention is, okay, this half moon looks good, say at noon, right? You got the moon here, and you have the sun up here. Great. I could see how that angle works. However, when the sun is setting, you've got the sun way down here over the horizon. You look over and up at the moon here. Why is the angle of the lit portion of the moon facing this way? It looks like the sun should be way up here, when in fact it's way down here. So this terminator line appears to be a good 45 degrees off. Or is that 90? Anyways, just some other things. But now let's get to the real proof, which would be the solar eclipse. I know a lot of you globers like to say eclipses somehow prove the globe, when in fact they do everything to disprove it. Lunar eclipses, first of all, happen when the sun is still out. That's backwards. And go watch some lunar eclipse footage. You'll see it eclipse from left to right. You'll see it eclipse from down to up. The point being, it should never eclipse from side to side. In fact, the lunar eclipse I saw last October went from left to right. So that doesn't work. Now let's get on to the solar eclipse, and the biggest proof that the globe model is fake is the fact that the solar eclipse casts a tiny little freaking shadow on the Earth, okay? One thing we know about physics is that when something casts a shadow, that shadow is, at minimum, as big as the object itself, as seen here with this little teddy bear, right? As you get more distance in between the light source, the object, and what you're casting the shadow on, obviously the shadow gets bigger. This is demonstrable science you could do in your own bedroom with a flashlight, right? So what I'm saying is, we're told the moon is supposed to be about a quarter of the size of the entire Earth. So when there's a solar eclipse, we should be seeing a shadow cast on the Earth at least that size, if not bigger. In fact, you got the sun 93 million miles away and the moon not even 1 million miles away. The shadow of the moon should actually completely engulf the entire Earth. The entire Earth should be in shadow during a solar eclipse. So that's that. Another thing on solar eclipses, if you try to do some research, you will notice that there are no videos that are of a solar eclipse that's zoomed in. You'll see videos of solar eclipses happening at an observatory, for instance. You got a bunch of people out there, you got a big nice telescope in frame, and here comes the solar eclipse, and what do you know? The video footage is just a camera on the ground. You know, where's all this video footage of the eclipses happening, you know, through a telescope? You know, let's see that. Another thing on those solar eclipses is when you go to look, you just don't see very much amateur footage. So I'm really happy that we're about to have one here August 21st in the United States. You can believe I will be all over that. I do plan on launching a balloon. I'd love to see what happens at altitude. Now we do have a couple videos of the solar eclipse from an airplane, where they actually take an airplane on a special trip to go follow the solar eclipse, right? You have all these professional photographers with their nice 3000 millimeter zoom lenses, and the only footage we get to see is very low quality, not zoomed in at all. So some more stuff on the moon. I was talking with David from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole yesterday, and there's some really good footage going around of what looks to be Rahu and Ketu. I'll get some links up later for that, but it does appear that there are some objects moving along with the moon. So more updates on that to come. What else do we got? Another thing, you know, let's talk a little bit more about reflections. This right here, nature, I mean, you don't need math or Bill Nye or anybody to tell you anything. If you just have a little bit of logic and open mind and just observe nature, all you have to do is stand here at this lake and look. You see this? You got a mountain, the clouds, everything is perfectly reflected like a mirror image. If anyone's been to a carnival or knows what a hall of mirrors is, or a fun house, you'll know that any amount of curvature on a reflective surface is going to distort the image. So these images are completely not distorted. This is flat, okay? Now you may say, oh, but that's not a big enough sample size, right? This couple miles worth of water here, oh, there's not enough curve. Well, even in 1 mile of water, there's 8 inches of curve, which would be enough to throw off the reflection. But let's go to something else, like a sunset, for instance. This effect here that you're seeing, it's not a mirage. It's actually real. So let's see here. You got the sun here, and what you essentially have is a giant slab, a mirror, okay? Every point where you see this light reflecting back at you is at the exact same angle. You'll notice you have these little waves and ripples here, and where the water starts to curve down, you get no reflection. So if this was a globe, what you would see here, instead of this line of light, you would just see one bright spot, like one shiny spot here, kind of like how you see on a wave, right? And that effect, it doesn't matter if it's 0.0001 of a degree, it's going to throw off a reflection. So, you know, these are just some things to think about. You know, we got the ability to see boats, you know, 30 miles away. I mean, you might say, oh, at the bottom half of the hull is cut off. There's plenty of great videos that aren't flat Earth related to teach you how perspective works and convergence and what actually makes a horizon. Okay. The fact that you can see this boat, period, from 30 miles away, that in and of itself disproves the curvature. It's not a, we're not trying to figure out, oh, it's missing 10 feet. You know, it should be missing all of it. That's the point we're making, guys. Okay. So, I don't know. I'll be back a little later with some more points. I do have a little bit of a woo-woo topic that's been on my mind lately, and that is Antarctica and this thought of the more land. And it makes a lot of sense to me that there would be more land, and that we would not be privy to that information. I'm not 100% convinced that Antarctica is a ring of ice all the way around us. Maybe what we're shown of Antarctica is just the same spot over and over, sort of like an island, for instance. When you look at all these ancient maps, they all show more land. You know, it's like the maps from yore had more land in it. It's like we kept losing land each new map. So now we're just down to what we have now on the AE map. But there used to be islands in the North Pole. There used to be continents where Antarctica is all the way around. And then even some of the other old maps show continents outside of Antarctica. So what made me start having this funny idea, though, is the emperor penguins. Okay, we have these animals. The only animal that can survive in Antarctica, right? It just so happens to be named the emperor penguin. So it kind of made me think about peacocks, right? So nobility and rich people, long time ago, actually they still do. They would have peacocks to run around on their manicured lawns, right? Kind of like a lawn ornament of sorts. So I'm kind of suggesting that maybe penguins are the peacocks of the secret elite in Antarctica. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it. When you talk to somebody about chemtrails, for instance, first thing they say is, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense because the powers that be are going to have to breathe those chemtrails too, right? Maybe not necessarily true. If they're from another continent or say Antarctica, you know, they're safe away from chemtrails. They're safe away from our poison GMO foods and war. You know, all the bad shit going on here. They're safe away from that stuff. You have another thing which is interesting is you know, dictators, presidents, other creepy rich old people, kings, queens, like to make little trips down to Antarctica. It's just weird. It's almost like Antarctica's an embassy. You know, they have Masonic lodges in Antarctica. It's to me, Antarctica seems like a port, like the port of Earth, and that's where all commerce comes and goes. So basically, we send all of our gold out, right? Humans have been mining gold since the beginning of time. Where's it all going? You know, I'm sure y'all know about the missing gold in Fort Knox and all that. It does seem that our physical gold is actually missing. And then, of course, just in the last 8 months, the Federal Reserve admitted under oath to losing $9 trillion, and they have no idea where it went, and they are not even investigating it. So, you know, and that's just one. There's other cases of companies and the government missing large sums of money. It never goes accounted for. And what I'm saying is, what are you doing with all this money? What for $9 trillion? Let's say you took 1 trillion. 1 trillion is pretty much enough to do whatever you want. Build underground bases. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So To me, it seems like we are working hard here in our little puddle of the earth only to help some kind of secret scumbags in Antarctica or beyond live it up in luxury. Um, so that's my woo for the day. And guess I can check the chat real quick. Who this is? Hey, what's up, guys? Anybody want to jump in? Should probably start a whole new hangout, honestly. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it, guys, and I'll start another one later for hanging out, chatting, and whatnot. Maybe talk about some of these ideas. And I will see you guys later. As Jaren would say, peace.